I want to thank the chairwoman for holding this hearing today, and I want to thank Inspector Horowitz for testifying.
Thank you.
And I would like to begin by saying that I've visited detained immigrants at more than one of the private for-profit detention centers set up by the Trump administration to profit from the prolonged misery inflicted by Jeff Sessions, Rod Rosenstein, John Kelly, and others who sought to discourage asylum seekers and others from seeking entry into our country at the southern border by implementing a cruel and barbaric policy requiring that children, even infants, be ripped from the arms of their parents and placed in private for-profit detention facilities, sometimes literally in cages. The first step towards creating a system that prioritizes human dignity is figuring out what went wrong, and I'm looking forward to doing that today. Inspector Horowitz, your review found that Attorney General Sessions, Deputy Attorney General Rosenstein, and others intended that their zero tolerance policy would cause children, including babies, to be separated from their families. Isn't that correct?
That was certainly the understanding when they announced, when Attorney General Sessions announced the zero tolerance policy. That was his understanding.
And your report documented that the purpose of this abusive child separation policy was to deter asylum seekers and others from seeking entry into the United States at the southern border. Isn't that correct?
We found in talking points and other records that that was part of the reason for doing it, was as a deterrent effect.
And your report found that the Trump administration moved forward on its child separation policy without the sort of planning and coordination required to humanely and properly care for the thousands of children, including infants, who were snatched away from their parents. Isn't that correct?
That's correct.
And Inspector Horowitz, your report also concluded that the Trump administration moved forward on its child separation policy without the sort of planning and coordination required that would have enabled the Trump administration to reunite the thousands of infants and children who had been taken away from their parents with their parents. Isn't that correct?
They certainly didn't take the steps that could have helped them try and do that. Whether what they could have ultimately done remained to be seen, but you're correct, Congressman.
Thank you. And Inspector Horowitz, isn't it a fact that as of today, literally hundreds of children taken away from their parents under the Trump administration child separation policy remain separated from their parents today? Isn't that true?
That's my understanding from court filings and ongoing litigation, Congressman.
Unfortunately, the stain of this inhumane Trump administration child separation policy will remain etched on the forehead of America for posterity. And I'm gratified that the Biden administration is taking steps to put an end to this sordid chapter in the nation's history, and Congress should work to do the same. Madam Chair, I also ask unanimous consent to enter into the record a statement from the organization First Focus on Children, containing recommendations on how to ensure we never repeat what happened with the zero tolerance policy, including adopting a best interest of the child standard for all immigration decisions.
Without objection.
Thank you. And with my remaining time, I'd like to turn briefly to the section of your report that details how the zero tolerance policy burdened an already strained federal court system, resulting in less judicial oversight and more chaos at the border. One striking detail from your report is that federal judges in the Southern District of Texas, quote, begged, end quote, the U.S. Attorney and the then Deputy Assistant Attorney General to bring their concerns about family separations to Deputy Attorney General Rosenstein. That's how bad it got. Federal judges begging the DOJ for help. Your report also noted that Deputy Attorney General Rosenstein participated in a few meetings organized by the administrative office of the courts to address the impact of the child separation policy on the administration of justice. To your knowledge, did those meetings lead to any changes in how DOJ handled family separations?
It did not result, as far as we found, in any changes. The change occurred on June 20 when the executive order was issued that essentially largely ended the separations. And a week later, a court ruling that effectively did the same.